Brutal Planet Magazine.
Also known as Wednesday 13.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to the video. Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
You're listening to Brutal Planet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? CJ Pierce here from Toronto Pool, and you listen to Brutal Planet Media right here. Get yourself.
Hey, I'm Steve from Within the Ruins, and this is Brutal Planet.
Greetings, Brutal Planet. We're live today with Johnny Nasty Boots. Johnny, how are you, man?
All good, all good. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, great to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you. Likewise.
So I got a lot of questions for you. First, I just want to say I really like the tracks that I've listened to that you have out, and I even watched some of your live stuff, and I was very impressed. And I gotta give your drummer props, man. I love that guy.
Which one?
The guy wearing the fur coat.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think it was the Soho video, and then I watched the
whiskey
the whiskey performance. Yeah, that guy's a killer drummer, and I love the. Is he not with you anymore?
No, it's not with me anymore.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. I love the fur coat aesthetic though. That was.
Oh
that was
yeah,
really
that's killer. You're
Well,
crazy
so-
for the fur.
Yeah. Well, I overstepped on that one a little bit, but I really like the style of the music, and I think I kind of see this trend a little bit towards a lot of people going kind of back to the roots and the raw, origins of rock. And I think what your sound does really well is kind of encapsulates a classic rock and a classic punk sound, but it doesn't sound contrived. It still manages to sound fresh, but those influences are very present. So I'm curious, like what kind of what your influences are, and what your origin story is and everything.
Well, yeah, you said it. I really like all the classic rock and roll, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath. I love that kind of stuff. But also when I was interested, in music, the first years when I was 13, 14, discovering all these bands, I was also very curious to know what was their origin, what was the roots of that music that I was liking. So I went deep into the jazz, rock and roll, and of course the root of all evil, the blues.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much, like I was really wanting to understand like what these guys were listening when they were my age. What was, their obsession with the guitar and with the sounds and with the music. So my dad helped a lot with all of that, of course. I was hearing a lot of good music in my home. So that was helping a lot. And I start playing blues, harmonica. Sometimes my dad was there playing harmonica with me. Other times I was just like guitar and vocals. That's it. And doing stuff from Robert Johnson and Mississippi Fred McDowell and my own arrangements of Howlin' Wolf, A.M. Superstitious, but more in a Delta style. Just kind of adapting, to the slide and being by myself playing this music.
It's crazy. I had this conversation with someone recently about how that music that you're describing, like blues and jazz, early blues and jazz, is really the foundation of all American music. Like whether it's rock, hip hop, R&B, country, even comes from that music. So that's pretty cool that you went that far into the weeds.
It's very important. I mean, if something doesn't have roots, if a tree doesn't have the roots, it just falls, So I think it's very, very important to understand, because of course it's like if you discover, I don't know, Van Halen or Randy Rhoads, it's cool, but what leave they to do their craft,
Yeah.
Very important.
That's amazing. I had a similar kind of trajectory with hip hop. It's like I started listening to hip hop back in the day. I'm a suburban white kid, but it was like Cypress Hill that really got me at first. And then I would go, what are these beats that he's like the DJ, like what? And then that forced me to get into like Parliament and Sly Stone and like, all these Cool in the Gang, all these like old soul artists that all of hip hop is based on, all those breaks and stuff. So I totally. Another point you just made that I think is so key that I never even thought of is that when you said blues, the root of all evil, the Robert Johnson story is literally like heavy metal totally borrowed that like fascination with Satan from that story.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. It's funny that you mentioned hip hop because literally the first band that I took as mine was Gorillaz.
Oh.
That it's nothing similar to what I do right now. But that was literally the band that got me obsessed with music. And I was like,
Can I tell you something? Yeah. I watched the Soho video and your vocal sound in that video, I was like, what does that remind me of? And I started thinking about it and I was like, it reminds me of Blur. The band Blur. And so when you said Gorillaz just now, I was like, holy crap.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
I remember being like discovering Gorillaz, and I was in my grandma's house one day and the radio was on and song 2 came out on the radio and I was like, these guys sound exactly the same as Gorillaz.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I even knew it was the same.
Yeah, for people who might not know, Gorillaz is Damon Albarn, who was the singer of Blur, basically.
Yeah.
It's like his kind of solo thing. I was instantly into Gorillaz because I was a big fan of underground hip hop and a big fan of Dell and Hieroglyphics, and he's on the Gorillaz record.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Man, so tell me a little bit about how you got to where you are now, because you're originally from Mexico City, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm from Mexico City. I started joining Nasty Boots 2015. And the first time I came here to LA, that is where I live now. I moved to LA 2 years ago, 2 years and a half to be exactly. I came here on a tour in 2017. And I was having a show at the Viper Room, the Whiskey Go-Go, and the Mint. That was my first experience touring here. And I was like, I really need to go back to LA one day. But it was kind of, difficult. The pandemic happened in 2020, right? It seemed like it was a long time ago, but yeah, 2020. So I always wasn't interested in being like, okay, what will happen if I move to the States and I do the same things I'm doing it here in Mexico, but there, because it's a country of rock and roll. Not gonna lie. Mexico, it's cool. I achieve a lot of cool stuff there, and there's great bands there and a great scene, but there's not a lot of outlets, or all the outlets that are there are kind of like independent, small, and they work so hard, but all the the massive radio, TV, venues, etc., it's all being occupied by some other genres. So it's kind of hard, to be honest.
Yeah, rock is tough in general.
Oh yeah.
But you know the band The Warning?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, another great Latino band. We talk a lot about how badass Latin America is, because like Latinos have a definite like rock thing and metal thing going for sure. Like a band like Maiden can play in South America.
Oh yeah.
Like millions and millions. So we're definitely vibing with that.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the name Johnny Nasty Boots, because now that I talk to you, I understand like the blues thing might play into that. But how did you come around to that name?
Well, that's it came because this song by the Rolling Stones, "Can't You Hear Me Knocking," from the Sticky Fingers album. So on that track, Mick Jagger sings Plastic Boots, but there's a live version where he sings Nasty Boots. So I was like, that sounds very bluesy. So first I started using it as literally my username on internet, my email and everything. So
Your handle.
yeah, exactly. So when I was playing with other bands. The band broke up, whatever. So I was like, okay, it's now time to do my thing. And I was doing the blues stuff, and I was like, well, Johnny Nasty Boots, it really fits. So that's pretty much that's it. And I have always wear boots and kind of ridiculously
Yeah.
wear.
It fits the sound too, because it's kind of a raw, dirty sound. And watching the live stuff, man, I was so impressed because you guys are really jamming and
Oh,
like
I
really
love
going
that.
off. And
I love
I
it.
love to see that. Yeah.
It's to me it's very important. I mean, and all these bands that I mentioned at the beginning and the blues by itself, uh the jam, it's very important. It's very important to to the to the sound of the style of the music. And I have always find interesting when I see a band playing live. I don't want to see the it play exactly as the record. Like,
Yeah.
I want it to sound good, but if a band can give me that extra, that moment it's only for me, for the audience, it's at that moment, I think it's very important and very magical. And that's also a very important part of repeating, going to see a band twice, or
Yeah.
whatever amount of times, because every time could be different. So I love that, and as a musician, I think it's fun. It's like, damn, I hope don't fucked up this time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to push the envelope a little bit.
Oh yeah, and sometimes it's like, I mean, we woke up every day, and sometimes we feel in some ways. Some days are good, some days are bad, some days are amazing. And I think that's the same thing with music. Like, not all the time it's the same. The audience is different, the venue is different, even the pedal board. It's very crazy. I play this the phosphate, that it's a very primitive pedal. So that thing even changed his sound if it's depending on the weather. If it's cold, it's gonna sound somehow. If it's warm, it's gonna sound different. So
Wow.
I think that's how life is. It's not always the same. So I love to put that on the stage and have fun and keeping it fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, on that note too, as a musician, it's like every show that you play on a tour or whatever, even though you might be playing a similar set or the same set, it's a different show every time. Like that's the joy of it. Like every audience is going to get something a little bit different than the last,
Yeah, I agree. We were just doing this tour with Faster Pussycat.
I love that band. I grew up listening to them.
It was so fun to hanging with those guys, like literally every night for 5 weeks. It was amazing. And yeah, sometimes there was like periods that we were playing 6 nights in a row, and every show was totally different. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome that you get to tour with, legendary bands like that too.
Yeah, it
I'd
was
be so honored.
very flattered, to be invited to do the tour.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about your new single. You have a new single out called "Howlin' and Crying." Great song. I was able to
Howling
spin
and
that.
Dying.
Howlin' and Dying. Sorry, my bad.
No worries. It's
Thank
similar.
you for correcting me.
I mean, if you're gonna die, probably you're gonna cry.
Yeah, howling is like that's redundant too. Howling
Yeah,
and
yeah,
crying
yeah.
are almost kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Howling and dying. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind the track and everything, and how it came about.
Well, this song, first came out. The music, I usually, my process of writing music, it usually comes with the music first. It comes with a good riff, That
Yeah.
usually I'm jamming, and it's like, oh, this kind of vibe. So I start developing, and after that, I usually start working on the lyrics. It's very rare if I start with the lyrics first and then the music. It's usually music and then the lyrics. Um, so the sound was kind of like very raw and rock and roll inspired, and there's a lot of evil woman in rock and roll music and in life. So I don't remember exactly
Ladies,
what was
look at
going through.
you.
Yeah. What was going on through my head, what experience was having, because I started working on this song in 2016.
Oh
uh,
wow.
it's has been a no yeah, 2016.
Did you
So
when you do that, when you say that, is it like something that you kind of built a couple riffs for and then you just set it aside, or were you just constantly tweaking on it all that time?
I usually am constantly tweaking. Like, this song to me was like very, it's simple. It's a simple song. It's a rock and roll song. It's nothing crazy as how I see it. So I was wanting to give something special to the song because it was more about the way that it's playing, more about the groove that the song has. So I was playing it constantly, and it was like, okay, it's cool, but there's something that I'm not satisfied. So that's the thing. I'm not gonna put anything out unless I'm satisfied with the arrangements, with the playing, with everything. So this one took a while, and also the fact of not having the resources to record it properly, to go into proper studio. I didn't want to record it on the garage. It's like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, putting out something, a great song, uh, and just record it at the garage, that could kill your great song. That's what I have always thought about, how the music is recorded.
Yeah, yeah, that's important as an artist too. It's cool to see. I think because of the way technology has evolved, a lot more artists now think about that, like how a track sounds when they record it, and the way to record it, and the way to make it sound the best possible.
Yeah, it's, if your track doesn't sound the standards, like the standards of the, let's call it, the industry, probably your song, it's not gonna perform the way you want. A lot of radio stations are not gonna like it, even if it's the most amazing riff, the most amazing song. They are not gonna put it on radio. Of course, I mean, maybe there's gonna be some people that wants to help you, and they understand, but most of the people don't. It happens to me a lot of times. Like, I'm on the car, and of course I listen to a lot of independent bands and unsigned bands and friends, and it's like, hey, I want to show you this fucking track. It's amazing, and I play it, and I'm like, damn, doesn't sound as good as, I don't know, whatever we were listening before, Queens of the Stone Age, or I don't know. It's like, I know it sounds great, but it's not as how I wanted to hear it, Or
Yeah, yeah,
live, and you're with the energy and everything, and you go and look for the band on Spotify and whatever, you play it, and it's like, doesn't satisfy you, or doesn't make justice to what the band can do live. So I
yeah.
think, for me, I have always tried to take a lot of care on that aspect.
That's cool. I'm curious too. So you're building up to the release of an EP, right?
Yeah.
With this, do you have a release date for that yet?
Not release day yet, but it's coming on fall.
Okay.
This was the second single of the EP. The first one, it's called Soho.
Yeah.
I think it's the one you watch and perform it live at the Whiskey A Go Go.
Yeah, yeah.
So very excited to share all these new tracks. I recorded last year the whole EP in Echo Park at the Station House Studios with Mark Rains. That it's an amazing producer, engineer. He helped me with the engineering and on these tracks. And yeah, so much fun doing it. I play the bass, I play guitar, vocals, percussion, except the drums. I still need to learn how to play drums.
That's a tough one to like really pick up and like
It's
do it
another
well.
world. It's especially if
Yeah.
you're like focus on strings. It's a
Yep.
whole different beast.
Yeah, if you're a guitar player, picking up the bass isn't that difficult because it's
Yeah,
like, you kind of, but drums is a whole other animal.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I'm curious about the video for Soho. Where'd you guys shoot that at? It's a really great video, I
Oh,
thought.
thanks, man. This one was shooted in how's it called, Lancaster.
Mm,
Really close to Palmdale.
I
all
know
that area.
Lancaster.
So much fun doing it. Great team, and having the vintage car was really fun to do.
Yeah.
I think it fits the vibe because Soho, it's about moving, it's about changing, it's a journey. It's very that song is very like personal in some way. I feel like it's like kind of biographic. Yeah, I talk about on Soho about moving and having to leave everything in Mexico. So I think it fits the vibe to be driving in the desert, going to you don't know where.
Yeah, the
My-
aesthetics of the video are good.
Sorry, what?
My bad. The aesthetics of the video, it's like a
Oh.
really cool. The visuals and everything are
Thank
really cool.
you.
It's out in the desert, and it's like it's got that raw. You
Yeah,
mentioned Queens of the Stone Age, like it kind of has that raw indie vibe, and I really dig it.
thank you. Yeah.
So do you have some shows coming up?
Yeah, I just played this last Saturday at the Viper Room. It was really good, and I announced last night my next show that it's gonna be the 18th of July at the Whiskey A Go Go. I'm very honored to be the direct opener of Gilby Clark. So
Oh, that's great.
gonna be a huge party. I'm pretty sure. After that, I have some upcoming shows in Arizona this month, the 26 and 27. I'm going to Yuma, and after that, I have some other upcoming shows here in the LA area. But I have a tour that I'm still figuring everything out. But it's gonna be in September, October. It's gonna be huge. It's like 40 shows all around the country. I'm going everywhere once again, and it's gonna be cool. And I'm putting it together with the release of the EP.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are we talked a little bit about like older blues influences. What would you say who are some of your guitar influences? I'm curious, like maybe a little bit more modern after the blues era.
Yeah, well, like we were saying, I love Queens of the Stone Age. I think Josh Homme is one of the greatest rock and roll guitar players that are alive.
Yeah, he's not a lead guy, but he's a great songwriter.
Oh yeah. But I also feel that the way he phrased everything, it's very special. It's like it's interesting to hear, and I'm happy that he kind of add exotic things, because sometimes we just hear very traditional scales and in the box, let's call it like that. And I really like to hear when things are a little bit outside of the box. For example,
Sure.
I really like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Mhm.
That those guys are crazy with the microtones and everything.
Yeah,
That's one of the bands that I really like from modern days. I like the OCs too, that it's like that kind of
I know
punk
them.
energy, but psychedelic, but garage. I don't know. So
All
I'm
great bands.
yeah, thank you. I think it's great that we have all these new and modern bands doing rock and roll, because you were saying the rock and roll, it's tough, it's not like easy to do rock and roll, and there's not a lot of exposure as we were wanting. But I think having all these bands playing and doing rock and roll right now, rock and roll is alive and well.
Yeah, I thought that watching you guys play at the Whiskey, I just thought, you know what, there's always going to be a place for music of this quality, and I think that, and we talk about this a lot, but like in recent years, everything's become so processed. And don't get me wrong, I love a lot of music that's electronic and processed, but
Yeah.
I do see like kind of a little bit of a pushback against that, and people are kind of like, no, let's like just do it raw, just like live drums, live in the studio, live guitars, just maybe not perfect. Like the flaws are kind of like the beauty of it. Like you were saying earlier with the live performance or something, it's like, I might fuck this up, but I'm going to try it anyway, and sometimes it just works incredibly, and sometimes maybe I won't try that again.
Yeah, I think we're living on a really good moment for rock and roll music. We have bands like Dirty Honey and
So
Rival
good.
Sons. So there's rock and roll. And one thing that I have noticed, through time, sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, but every time that I go to see a legendary band like the Rolling Stones or Queens of the Stone Age, I always see in the audience young people. Like I can't say a number, but how many new fans the Beatles got every year?
Yeah.
I'm sure there has to be a ton, like all the young kids that are discovering their roots and rock and roll and how to play the great classics. They're going through all these classic bands. So I think because rock and roll, it's real, it's just staying forever, it doesn't lose the quality. I can hear a Led Zeppelin track right now on the radio, it's gonna sound amazing.
Yeah.
So
couldn't agree more.
And that's the main difference I found with this kind of more processed music that it's around. That I also listen to modern stuff, and I love hip hop and I love Gorillaz, but a lot of these artists are trying to sound modern or sound like on with the most sophisticated synthesizer and the most sophisticated drum machine, and they really want to sound modern. But you hear those tracks, every pop artist, you hear those tracks 10 years later, and it sounds so fucking old.
Yeah, it's
doesn't
true.
happen with rock and roll or metal or all these like genres that are more real, that are more like, I'm gonna play distortion because I fucking like it, not because it's a trend, So
Sure.
I think that helps a lot to keep the music that we love alive.
Yeah, that holds in so many ways. Like I think about like all the like trap beats and like the electronic hi-hats and stuff, and it's like I like a lot of that music, but it's already starting to sound dated.
Yeah.
and I listen to like old hip hop, for example, where they sample like Cypress Hill or something, or Wu-Tang or something, where they sample like old funk artists
Yeah.
and soul artists, and that still sounds timeless to me.
Yeah,
so it to your point, it's like the artists that it might not. We just did this thing the other night about like we're going back through the 2000s and like examining our favorite albums of each year. Like we did 2000 the other day, and we were all talking about these great albums that came out in the year 2000. And then we looked at the Billboard Top 100 charts, and I'm just like, not one of the albums that we talked about were on the top 100. So it's like, and these are timeless albums that I've listened to since 2000 over and over again. And it's like none of them even register. But I think the albums that did sell well that year, a lot of people have forgotten about already.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like sometimes I watch those charts and billboards and whatever, and it's like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah.
Maybe I hear the song like everywhere, even in the soup, but right now I cannot remember the name, because it's just like that kind of music sometimes is just built. I'm not gonna say composed. It's built.
Yeah.
Uh,
Produced. It's
yeah,
sometimes like I'm sure they're using AI at some point too. Like, how do we find the best notes and the best hooks and all that kind of stuff? And it's like it's
the
whatever
worst,
works.
the worst is coming, man.
Yeah.
So I'm scared about the future, but also I think with all this new technology, it's gonna make people realize and having like give it more value to
Yeah.
to what it's the craftsmanship.
By the same token, with those charts, there were a couple records on the Billboard 100 that were rock records. One of them being that Santana record, Supernatural, the one where he like did a bunch of songs with like different. It has the Rob Thomas Smooth song on it.
Yeah.
And I went, oh wow, I remember that, but and the Eminem record was on there and stuff, but still, there's so many, like the Deftones White Pony record came out that year. That is undoubtedly like a classic record, and I know my kid and his friends listen to it now.
Oh wow, that's amazing. You
yeah,
see,
yeah.
That's what we were saying. It's like there's always new generations embracing the good quality. If something it's well done or good, it's well produced, it's gonna stay there. I love that.
As an artist too, it's so tough, especially in this day and age, because there's such a temptation to do what is going to make money. And I feel like really good art, it takes time for people to understand it, or like maybe for it to catch on. So you're kind of in this, as an artist, you're in this weird limbo where you have to go, I really want to do this, but people aren't really understanding what I'm trying to get across yet, and if I just do this, it'll like get more plays or whatever. So it's a tough tightrope to walk too, I think.
It is. It's very tough because being in the music industry, we know how that could be a bitch.
Yeah.
So, but how I see it, all the best things that has happened to me as an artist has happened when I'm the most honest.
Totally agree.
And it's when, to me, being honest, it's putting this music that I want to play. Probably if I will not be playing this music and I will hear it, if I will hear that same track, in the multiverse, there's another, it's not me, but somebody else put out Howling and Dying, I will be like, oh shit, I like that. I'm going to listen to that. So that's when I hear something in the studio or, playing it, and I'm like, I could listen to this. I feel comfortable. And it's when I know it's going to work because I'm happy. It's like, this is a job. Being a musician, it's a job, and it's one of the most hard jobs that are out there because there's not a lot of money. Like you were saying, It's very tough to make money. So I have always think about this when we start, as young people trying to do something in music. We usually pick the guitar because we don't want to be on a desk 24/7 for the rest of our lives, doing, I don't know, whatever. Exactly. So when you start growing and then you change and you're still doing music, but you're like, oh no, but let's do this. I don't even like it too much, but let's make it more commercial. Let's make it more pop so we can be more on the radio and we can get more streams and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I think you lose the point. Where are you doing music?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of doing something that you don't really like, but now you're having a guitar?
Yeah, you might as well just go work in an office.
Yeah, and that's gonna make you more money. If you're here from the money, you're in the wrong business because you never know. So I think if you're in the music industry, you have to be honest with yourself and playing whatever the fucking you want. That's what I think all my heroes does,
I love that attitude, man. And I watch a lot of clips for, do what I do. I'm like always watching podcast clips and podcasts and all that kind of stuff, collecting, interview clips or whatever. And there was this clip of Rob Zombie, and he said almost exactly what you said, but I love the way he put it, because he was like, all my life, like, I've kind of just done what I want. And he's like, there was a point when the record label came to me with the Los Exorcisto album, and they were like, we don't know, this album's kind of long. He's like, oh, you want me to change the album? Well, you might as well just kick me off the label then, because I don't care. Like, you think it's too long? Like, I'm doing it this way, and just told him to fuck off. And then he went on to say, a lot of my friends, I watched a lot of my friends in the industry who, they get into a certain thing and the label puts them with a producer and they tries to change their sound and make it more, radio friendly or whatever. And eventually they're doing something that they're not feeling, and you can tell that that it's fake, that it's not real. And then they lose whatever, audience they did have. So it's
when everything start falling apart.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So it's much better to follow your heart, even if you're in the poorhouse to start, because eventually if you stick with it, people will come around.
Yeah.
If you love it, other people are going to love it eventually.
Exactly. Because people can tell, like you were saying, you were noticing, this, that guy doesn't seem comfortable.
It seems like they're faking it.
Good solos. Why he's not playing a single solo? We experienced that with Saint Anger. It's like, guys, come on, that's not you. Come on.
Every band has to go through that, though. It's like I saw this in the rap world. There's this great comparison this guy made. I think his name's Justin Hunt, but he was like, everyone rates Biggie and Tupac as like these great goats of hip hop, but it's like they died before they had a chance to put a bad album out. Like Jay-Z and like and Nas and all the other guys, they have some shit albums because they put a lot of material out. And it's like, if you're an artist, at some point you're gonna put something out that your fans aren't completely feeling or whatever. It's just part of the game.
And I think it's okay, like, as long, because one thing, it's okay, it's a bad album because I don't know, maybe you were not writing great songs.
I think they were more focused on making that documentary at that time than they were on recording a good record.
Right.
I think that's a lot of it.
If an artist puts out a bad album, I think it's fine. It's like, it's difficult to turn everything into gold. It's like,
sure. And sometimes a bad album in retrospect is a good album, someone puts something out and you're like, whoa, I don't like this. It's most of the music I really love. When I first heard it, I went, oh, I don't like that. That's weird. And then I went, oh, wait a minute, there's something there. And then I went, oh, these guys are like doing something next level. Like you were saying, outside of the box. It's like,
it happens to me a lot of times that I finish the album. I'm an album person.
Mm-hmm.
Finish the album and it's like, I don't understand this. What the fuck happened? And that's a good sign. That's a good sign because, like, okay, one more. Okay, now with headphones. Holy shit, this is a jam.
Yeah. You go back and discover stuff that, even like I was saying, we were doing this 2000s thing and I put on a bunch of records from the 2000 era that I love. And I just went, wow, this is just a great record front to back. Like, it's rare. I shouldn't say it's rare, because I feel like a lot of the old heads these days are quick to go like, oh, music sucks now and it's terrible and everything's shit. And it's like, maybe if you like listen to the radio still, or you aren't like really digging, because I think it's a golden age right now with the way that technology has evolved. It's like I find great music all the time
and all around the world. I love that. It's like, in the 70s, they were like, oh yeah, prog rock from Italy. It was like a thing in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like we can dig everywhere from all the parts around the world, and I think that's great. I love to have physical copies and all that, but it's really expensive. So I think the streaming era, it's great to discover new music.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is also a pushback, like you were saying, to owning the music. Like I just saw an article recently about how vinyl is selling more, like outsells CDs now.
Yeah,
because people that really care about music are like, no, I want to get like the vinyl pressing, and like you hear it on streaming and you can play it anywhere you want on streaming. But then if you're a real audiophile, if you're a real music lover, you go buy the vinyl and listen to it at home.
Because it's a whole different experience. When I hear for the first time, usually I hear my masters, I'm like, damn, and this is going to go all the way to what's the 320 kbps on Spotify. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're hearing the master on wave and it sounds so fucking good, and it's gonna be on the streaming platforms. You're like, okay.
It's a beautiful thing because you have situations like, I don't know if you remember that guy Gautier in that song, somebody that I used to know. It's like that guy recorded that song in his bedroom, and it was a global hit, and it's like that's incredible. Like that wouldn't have happened in the 90s or before that,
No, not at all.
There were a lot more gatekeepers in the mix. Now the problem is there's so much music. It's like, where do you find it? It's like, needle in a haystack type thing.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some rare cases, like when it's recorded on the bedroom, that it really stands out.
Yeah.
But right now, like you said, we have so much music that there's the competition. It's a lot,
Yeah.
And a lot of the music that it's out there, it doesn't sound good, or it's just like a bunch of crap. So it's a good thing, but it's also a tough thing. Like yesterday, my wife was asking me, so in the 60s, how all these bands, because we were like listening to a bunch of psych rock, like how they were, like how people were like discovering these bands, because they were not sounding on the radio. And I was like, actually, most of those bands were sounding on the radio because they were having a label, and it was not easy to do a record. So everything was kind of like recorded with the highest quality possible at that time. So it was still that it was maybe not the best song. It was really fitting the standards of how everything has to be sounded right now, but on back in those days. But right now, there's so much things that, like I said, could be the greatest track, but it could be recorded the worst possible way, and it doesn't.
Well, and the cream will rise to the top too. Like you're saying, if you spend time into like really put some care into your production and mastering and stuff, and make sure that it's like up to par with the rest. But someone else made this point recently about, because people are like, oh, there's so much crap coming out today. And he was like, yeah, there was a lot of crap coming out in the 70s and 80s too. Like if you go through any bargain bin, you'll find it album after album of trash that someone recorded and like put money behind,
Yeah.
So it's things haven't changed that much. It's just the volume has changed.
The volume. Yeah.
The technology to distribute, it's like you can just make it on your computer and upload it. So, but even some of those trash artists, like artists I would consider like trash artists, like some of these like bedroom rappers or like electronica artists, they put out some cool shit too. Where I'm like, have you ever heard of what's that group called? They're like I can't even think of it right now. But like some of this like kind of a indie electronica stuff that's just really like glitch pop or like new kind of stuff that bubbles up from the underground. There can be cool shit that comes out of that, but it's fewer and far between.
Yeah, because it's like it depends on the artist. It's like, okay, give me a hammer and I'll make a boat. But some other people have everything, and it's not gonna work that way.
Yeah, that's another great point, because technology too depends on the artist. Because like this other guy was making this point that like even in the 80s, bands like ZZ Top and Prince were using drum machines.
Oh yeah.
So like they're like the electronic, like the grid and all that kind of stuff, and the programming music has always been there. But you can't say that an artist like an album like Purple Rain is trash because he used a drum machine on it.
Yeah.
He's a great artist too.
Oh, I love Prince. It's one of my favorite artists. in Mexico, it's not as huge as here in America. So
Prince?
yeah, like
Oh wow.
it's I mean it's huge everywhere around the world, but here in LA at least, I hear Prince everywhere, like
Yeah.
literally, and it's not like that in Mexico. So when he passed away, I was really sad because it was tough to get the vinyls of Prince, and when he passed away, it was even worse because now everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan," and no, this one it costs you this amount of money, and I'm like, "Damn!" And during that time, Prince was not in any streaming platform, so I was
Yeah.
pissed.
Man, we were talking about him yesterday on our 2000 thing because one of the news items from 2000 was when he changed his name back to Prince. Do you
Oh
know
yeah,
that whole story about the symbol thing?
yeah.
It's like just that on its own is so genius. Like the label wouldn't let him release music because he was under contract as Prince. So he's like, okay, I'm a symbol now.
Oh yeah.
Put out music. And then when they find the contract and he's like, okay, now I'm Prince again.
Very smart guy. Very
Oh, I
very
love
smart.
it. I love it. And that guy, we had a debate about Prince or Michael Jackson. Someone was trying to tell me that Michael Jackson was better than Prince. I was like, I love Michael Jackson too,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I don't know if how many like Prince wrote his own songs and he wrote hits for other artists. Like Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor, written by Prince.
Yeah.
Manic Monday by the Bengals, written.
Yeah.
When you listen to that song too, it totally sounds like a Prince song. You're like, oh, I can totally hear it.
Yeah, I was so surprised on some of those songs when I find out like, wait, what? Oh, it makes sense. Now it makes sense.
Yeah. And he's a phenomenal guitar player.
Oh yeah, exactly. I remember when I first discovered Prince, it was during the Super Bowl. When he
Ah,
performed on the Super Bowl. That was the first time that I really watched Prince. All right, yeah, I know the name,
I
blah blah blah.
forgot about that.
But that performance was like changed my perspective and changed like the way of listening to him. I was like, no, now I need to listen to all their goddamn records.
Yeah. The guy was like 3,000 years ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, he was even doing like the like androgyny thing in the 80s, like dressing up in women's clothing and stuff. And he
Yeah.
always had the hottest women around him too. Like no one ever could argue that he was, gay or anything. Like he was.
I don't know where I read about it, but it was like, oh yeah, Prince is the artist that um, can steal your girlfriend, then he's going to steal your girlfriend's clothes, and it's going to go with steal another girlfriend or something
Yeah,
like
completely. Carmen Electra, like Prince introduced to the world. She, like, guy was just absolute legend.
and he was always I don't know if you have here one of their latest albums, what's the name, one was with Third Eye Girl, and the other one was I don't remember, but he put like those two records like at the same time, but one was the power trio with all female band, and the other one it's more like electronic and hip hop beats.
Those are like some of the last things he put out, right?
Yeah, I was so surprised. Like only you, man, like literally can put an album that it's more like rock oriented, and the other one that it's like hip hop and Airbnb. So it's so interesting to me, and that also makes me think about like technology. Like a lot of people are complaining and kind of like scared about AI, and yeah, of course, like I was saying prior, the worst is yet to come.
Yeah.
with that stuff. But also I feel like it's also gonna be a tool, and the smart people are gonna use it in a good way. It's
Totally.
like I was thinking the other day, like if in the 50s somebody will have say like, hey, I use did this. I'm playing bass and I'm playing drums and I'm singing these harmonies and it's only me. We'll be like, oh no, that's fake. No, that's
Yeah, that's a good
how will you
point.
come with that. That's not possible.
That's a
And
great
now
point.
we see it as something normal. So I think AI, it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it's already putting out a lot of crap, like all this image generated. So it's horrible. But also, I think it's gonna be a great tool in the future.
Yeah, someone made a great point on one of the podcasts I was watching, and they said AI is us, basically. It's collective humanity. It's
Yeah.
all it is feeding stuff we fed it back to us, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I was like, that's an interesting point,
Yeah, I agree.
Well, man, it's been a great conversation. We're rounding up on an hour. I really enjoyed talking to you, man. And I consider, this isn't really a job. Like, I don't get paid for this, but part of what I consider my role is to highlight great new artists, talented new artists. And I think you're one of those, man. And I'm really excited, just talking to you, obviously you are very into music and take music very seriously. And that on its own is, outstanding. So.
Thank you. I appreciate the spotlight. It's great what you do, especially now knowing that you're doing just because you want to help people like me, and we need more people like you.
I love music, man. So we used to do these interviews, like really stiff interviews, and it would be like, "What is your new album? What is your single?" What, And I finally went, you know what? Let's just have a conversation, and it's been so much better. And it's
the best.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Way to know somebody. I love
totally, man. Yeah, and I always find musicians I can easily talk to, because I'm kind of I dabble a little bit myself, but I also just love music, and so I can always find some kind of common ground or something we can go into the weeds on. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the spotlight once again.
Absolutely, man. Tell people you got a show coming up at the Whiskey. The new single is Howlin' and Dying.
Yeah, so guys, Johnny Nasty Boots, you can find me everywhere. It's very easy. I have a website. I'm on Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And yeah, come to the shows, because that's where the real deal it is.
And this guy is a killer live guitarist, vocalist, man.
Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for the time today, man. Please come back through and talk to me again when you have like something new to announce. Or
the EP is coming, so I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk again.
Let's do it, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dustin.
Johnny Nasty Boots, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.